What's up, everybody? My name is Dillon Jewett, and we are back for another episode of the War Room. Today, we got linebackers for you for summer scouting. I know first time in a while that we've been on the show, but we're going to dive straight into summer scouting. We got a really good linebacker class this year that I'm really excited to break down for you guys. So we're going to dive right into that right after this. All right. Yeah, again, so this episode's going to be centrally focused around the linebackers in this class. Uh, Again, a really good linebacker class. Very mixed results for me compared to the mass media. There's a number of guys. I mean, there's one name that you'll hear pretty early on that you're going to be pretty surprised is so late on my board. But a lot of reasons to back that. So bear with me. Yeah, so we're going to share the screen really quick. Here we go. So, first off, at number 10, Raylan Wilson, Georgia linebacker. So Georgia this year has two really good linebackers, particularly spearheaded by one CJ Allen. There's no surprise there. I'll mention him later on in the list. But Raylan Wilson is the will linebacker for Georgia. He will take on a bigger role this year now that Smile Munden is off into the NFL, but uh, plenty to like about him. I do just kind of struggle with a couple things with him. He's more of an athlete than he is a football player right now, which is a little bit of a challenge for his overall projection. Um, we're still working out the technique aspect of the position. I'll explain that a little bit more in depth here in a second, but also the processing. We're going to see him bite with a lot of frequency early on in the rep. Doesn't maintain a lot of gap discipline and integrity, which is going to set him behind this class. Good tackler who is good, actually borderline great in terms of pass coverage. Got really good coaching in Georgia. I just hope that he's able to kind of make that stick with him throughout this season, because if he can, then we're going to see probably a day two type of guy if he's able to take the right steps in terms of his technique and his processing ability. So whenever I'm talking about technique in particular for Raylan Wilson, we're going to see a lot of struggles with his ability to use his hands, placement, plan, quickness. All three of those are struggles whenever it comes to his hands, which makes him have a bit of a hard time whenever it comes to shedding blocks. Grip strength also subpar. Feet, you're going to see a lot, take a lot of missteps, waste a lot of wasted space with Raylan Wilson. Though he does have excellent foot quickness, just a lot of missteps. And Pats can ride a little bit high, makes it a little bit of a difficulty for him to shed these blocks and to also maintain gap integrity. So he's going to get driven off base quite a bit, which is, again, like this is a will linebacker, so he's going to play a little bit more off to the edge. So it's not quite as big of a deal if he was your prototypical Mike linebacker, but he was listed at 6'1", 235. So that's pretty large for a linebacker, but he doesn't look the part. I don't think he's going to be 235 once he does weigh out at the combine or at any other pre-draft event. So again, this is a good tackler, great athlete, great at closing on the football. Very fluid, flexible player who he does have just adequate functional strength. I think there's a little bit more juice on the lower body portion of his body. The upper body, his upper body strength is very much subpar. Um, But yeah, the twitch, you gotta love the twitch with this guy. I think that he's going to be able to make it in the NFL one day simply because of his overall athletic ability. And I think that's going to translate really well if these teams are really just looking for a hunter of a linebacker who can play off the edge a little bit and drop back in coverage, move around in space. Raylan Wilson is that type of guy. So yeah, I think with another year projection, we could see him develop into what he was, expected coming out of high school, five-star player. So now he's going to get a bigger role with the Georgia defense. So um, I like that for him. Amari Campbell sits a 9 for me. Penn State linebacker transfer from North Carolina. So um, this is another interesting guy. Very, very strong linebacker. Plenty of upper body strength in particular. I think his arms were just bulked out. You could tell that there was a lot of emphasis in the gym for this player. And he's good at closing on the football. Decent tackler overall. Actually, I'd go a couple steps above decent. I think he's a borderline great tackler who closes on the ball pretty well. Hands are great. I think he has a plan. There was a really impressive swim move. I can't remember which game it was that I watched. I want to say Georgia Tech. Swim move up the middle of the pocket, just able to evade. I think it was the offensive guard, get to the quarterback, make a nice play, and that was mere like solely as a pass rusher in that particular play, just rushing up the middle. But you can see it whenever it comes to just block shedding in general. He does have a plan. He doesn't, have these slow hands that allow the offensive lineman to get into his chest. So he's a technician in that sense, and that helped him very much so at North Carolina. I do think we're going to get a lot of false steps with him in terms of his feet. So he can drive himself off base due to a misstep, and plays low in terms of pad level. Not a superstar athlete, but he does get by. I think he does have struggles whenever it comes to deceleration. So there are some flyby scenarios, which is a little bit of a question mark for me. But I do think that he can kind of hone that in a little bit and get that under wraps. Spatial awareness is a big time concern for me. Um, Whenever I view spatial awareness and scouting, I view that as more than just this kind of vision type trait. I view that as also this combination of what do I see, where am I in relation to what I see, kind of as this kind of natural type of positioning. And I think there's a challenge on like both ends of that. He doesn't see the field very well. He's also a little out of place pretty often, which makes him, a little bit of a liability at times in terms of making his fits as a Mike linebacker. Um, and that is a little bit of the question mark I have for Amari Campbell because I do think at the pro level he's a Mike linebacker just surely based off of his athletic and physical profile, and the fact that I just don't like him as a kind of free space roamer, like you would at will. So that is a little bit of a challenge. Discipline, not very disciplined in terms of his gap fits as well. So again, I mentioned earlier with this deceleration, a lot of flyby type of tackles, or tackle attempts rather. So he's not going to be someone that you can just routinely expect to fill his gap, remain disciplined, remain in spot, not get moved off of his spot, which is again a little bit of a concern with for me with him playing Mike linebacker. Read and react skills again not very good. I do like his overall competitiveness, and again his tackling is really great. Whenever he's able to get a face up, head on tackle, he does come through with that. Coverage not great. This is more of an adequate trait for him than it is a good trait. So a little bit of question mark there, but I do think it's a lot of these issues, and this is one of the main reasons why I do have decent expectations for him, is that he's going to Penn State, and Penn State knows how to train up athletes. So I think he's going to come out of this program, out of spending 1 year with this program. I think he's going to come out of this a little bit more explosive. I think that he's going to be a little bit more instinctual. I don't know about the discipline. We do have a lot of like undisciplined prospects coming out of Penn State in the front seven. Just a lot of athletes kind of just have these flyby moments where it's like all aggression, all speed, fast, go, go, go. So I don't know about if the discipline's going to resolve, but I do think that he's going to come out of this a little bit more juiced up, which is going to help him out, boost him up whenever it comes to his overall draft profile. Now, this is where the surprise comes in. Anthony Hill Jr. Out of Texas, I really wanted to like him. I really struggled with it though. I do see a lot of I hate this comp. I really do. Well, I love this comp for this player. But I don't like this comp overall in terms of trajectory. Kenneth Murray, I saw a lot of that with Anthony Hill Jr. Really just a good athlete, and what really digs into that for me and makes me struggle with Anthony Hill is he's a good athlete, not this great athlete that people want to, on this pedestal that people want to place him at. He's pretty fast, decently flexible, um, decent functional strength. I just don't know about the deceleration is not there. I don't think the long distance speed is there. Obviously, he's a linebacker, so that's not as big of a concern. But I think that there's also this reactive athletic trait that he is missing. We're going to see a lot of processing woes with him on his Texas tape. Wrong place, wrong time. I don't see this competitive fly around type of guy that a lot of people see. Worth mentioning with summer scouting, I'm not putting in the full evaluation process. This is summer scouting. We're getting a feel for these guys. We're getting our feet wet. So I'm watching about 2, sometimes 3 pieces of film on each of these guys. It is very easy to watch the wrong pieces of tape, but based off the snapshot of what I have watched, again, this is what I've been able to gather. Anthony Hill just truly doesn't have all the traits that I'm looking for in someone that, I know he's a junior. He has another year to develop here. He's 20 years old. So hopefully by the end of the year, he's able to take a step. But I just don't see enough here for me to feel totally comfortable with this notion that it's like, oh, he's going to be ready to go first round potential type of guy when it's all said and done. I don't see that. I also struggle with his ability to tackle. I don't think it's quite there. I think it's more marginal than it is adequate or better. Um, Not the best finisher on plays on a rep to rep basis. Uh, he's decent in pass coverage. The pass rush skills, you definitely see it. I do think that some of that is just design pressure that he doesn't have to sit here and use his hands and really work his way to the quarterback. Obviously, that's often what you'll see with these off-ball linebackers, but I saw it a little bit more frequently with Anthony Hill as opposed to a couple of these guys. Like I mean, I brought up Amari Campbell last, most recently. Saw a lot more particular moves with him. Um, I see a lot more of the pass rush nuance with a couple of the guys that I'll mention here down the road as well. But yeah, just a couple of question marks with Anthony Hill. I do think he's flexible. I do think he's fluid. But I do think he's more of a smooth athlete than he is a true pure juiced up type of guy. And I think maybe there was um, a little bit of a desire to see more, and I think that may have also played a role in me um, grading him out so poorly. Is that he just did not meet the expectations for me. So hopefully he's able to take a step this year. Obviously, he plays for Texas, so he'll have a big pedestal and opportunity to be able to do that. But I do need to see a lot more from Anthony Hill before I can really feel comfortable about labeling him as a day 2 or better prospect. Harold Perkins Jr. So missed pretty much all of last year with with a I want to say torn right ACL, missed weeks, went out in week 4 and missed the remainder of the season. He reminds me very much of Frankie Louvu, just a more juiced up, more athletic version of that. Um, it, the hands in terms of block shedding, in terms of the kind of nuance of a pass rusher, whenever he is pass rushing off the edge, I don't really see that quite as much. I do think he's. I mean, I mentioned this a little bit more with Anthony Hill as well, but Harold Perkins is way more nuanced than I think Anthony Hill is as a pass rusher. But Harold is still that kind of more athlete than he is polish coming off the edge. Um, but I do like his pass rush upside. I think he's going to develop be more and more in that phase of his role with LSU. I do really wonder with Harold Perkins is like what's the end game with him. Obviously, uh, 20 came like burst onto the scene in 2022 as a redshirt freshman. Went out there, got 10 sacks. Had 41 pressures, 25.2 pressure rate. So a really successful redshirt freshman season, particularly, rushing off the edge as a pass rusher. Then you see him in 2023 start to take more of a hybrid role, this overhang type of linebacker role, gets 6 sacks. Uh, he's still rushing off the edge pretty consistently by this point, but still kind of easing into this new role that they're working him into at LSU. Then last year, redshirt freshman season, you see him really take on the overhang, pure like almost like a strong safety type of roll down, box safety type of role. Um, in 2024 prior to his injury. Uh, and I don't know. I don't think they fit him in right. I think that he needs to stop playing this overhang role and just this traditional will linebacker. I do think that he can be this hunter of a linebacker that can drop back in coverage, fit well into the zones and uh, just run and chase after the ball carrier. Uh, really juiced up athlete. Like he's going to run really well at the combine. I think great instincts, good deceleration, and this is one that this is an athlete where I mean you'll see this pretty often. I've already mentioned it with a couple of these guys, but deceleration can be a little bit of an issue for these defenders that are just this athletic linebacker like build. Um, and one good thing about Harold Perkins is he doesn't have a lot of flyby type of situations. He is able to decelerate, stop his momentum. So he is good at that in that category as well. Very flexible, particularly in his lower half. And now I mean, beyond his functional strength, one of the biggest woes of his game is just his ability to process. He's not particularly bad at it. I do think he's just very average of a processor. He doesn't have these, he doesn't quite have the amount of splash plays, snipe through blocks, snipe through the traffic and make these splash plays, as a run defender. I don't quite see those as much as I would wish. I do think that down the road he could develop into this high TFL type of guy where he's making big plays behind the line of scrimmage. Um, uh, yeah, I'm not seeing a fully finished product with Harold Perkins, albeit he did have 1 year of his career basically chopped off at this point, and but the initial hype of him, pre like before the season last year was that we were going to potentially see a first round type of guy when it's all said and done. And I know the injury happened. And I know there was, that particular setback in his career, but I do look at this film and I'm like, with or without this injury, I'm not seeing where there was this potential. Like there was a moment where it was Harold Perkins can be a top 20 type of player. I don't see that in his game. I do think a lot of that just rooted from the concept of him playing SEC football at a Louisiana State university team that it just gets so much publicity. Um, and yeah, I struggled with his film a little bit in terms of trying to project him to the pro level. I do have a fifth round grade on him right now, so I do think that when it's all said and done, there's a chance he could be like a mid third round type of guy potentially. Um, but you're still trying to choose figure out a role for him, which does add a little bit of a challenge for whoever decides to draft him. Whit Weeks, we're staying with LSU. That's my linebacker 6 at the moment. Plenty to like, plenty to dislike with Whit Weeks. Um, decent hand placement whenever it comes to getting off of blocks. Hand speed is a little bit of a question mark. I do think that he can drive his hands into the right position, but sometimes he's a little bit late and it lets the offensive lineman really work their way into his chest. Pad level can get a bit high at times. Though whenever he does land on time and on target with his hands, he is able to get decent knockback. Good feet, an occasional false step. Nothing to be really worried about. Something you could just clean up, but good footwork overall. Great foot quickness. I do like his ability to reset when he does have a false step. So, as an overall athlete, I know there's some people that have hit on him as an athlete, commending his agility and saying that he does have good, sideline to sideline speed. I'm a little bit of a tick below that. I do think he's an adequate athlete, but I think he's one of the bottom half. He's on the lower end of the 10 guys I'm going to mention today in terms of overall athleticism. He is able to decelerate, stop, gather, make tackles. Instincts are a little marginal. I do have a little bit of a differentiator between instincts and the pure read and react skills. I think instincts are more on the moment, kind of like physical quickness, if you will, whereas read and react is your ability uh, to really just read and then react, whereas instincts are more of a split second type of thing. So on the flip side of that, read and react skills are great. He is able to see the field and then make a play. This is someone who can be a splash player, make splash plays in the backfield. Probably going to become a high tackle for loss type of guy. Plays with patience, basically where sees the field well, knows where to space himself within the field. Highly competitive player who does have this pure linebacker type of tenacity to him, which I love. Great at finishing plays through the whistle. Good upper body strength. I do think his lower body strength is not quite on par with his upper body, but that's something we can work around. Tackling, I think he's in terms of pure form and wrap up, I think this is the best tackler in the class. I don't think I really saw him miss any tackles that were just like whenever he was able to make a head on target, good pursuit angle, get in position to make the tackle, he did the job pretty much every time. In terms of coverage, I'm a pretty decent fan with him in coverage. I think that he has the nuance, the technique to be able to get in the right spot, uh, make the right fits, cover up space properly, and he's able to do really any variation of the route tree. I think stop routes were a little bit of a problem for him in terms of coverage, but he can play vertical, he can play in routes, he can play out routes. So that's something I like about him. I think that if there is any question mark with his overall coverage ability, it roots from the fact that I do think he's just this adequate, not much better, not much worse, but an adequate athlete. So that does kind of hinder that ability to some degree. Um, but yeah, I do think Whit Weeks is going to be able to become a solid, quality player in the NFL. I think he could be like a Blake Martinez type of guy. So we'll see about that um, once he gets to the NFL. But I do have a fourth round grade on him now. So this is someone I could eventually see growing into this maybe even second round type of territory. But yeah, and this is really where we're getting into the dudes of this class. I really like this class at linebacker. And I think that now, once we start getting into these top five, this is really where we're starting to see some potential superstars. Um, so Sonny Styles, linebacker 5 for me. This is another fun one. Really enjoyed his tape. I think that this is someone that I really didn't have much of an expectation for, but he's not great at anything in particular, but he checks a whole lot of boxes for me. And I think it sets this really good floor for him, that when you combine it with the fact that he's 6'4", I have an official measurement of 6'4", 6042. So that means 6'4", and a quarter, 238, 239 pounds. Um, those are really great measurements for the modern day linebacker. He's going to have really long arms too. Pass rush skills are good. Block shedding skills are good. Tackling and closing ability are good. Pass coverage skills are good. Ball skills are good. They just check all the way across the board. I have a 5 point. I grade these players out of 7, and there's a compilation of grades that flow into these main grades I'm about to mention that I just mentioned. But tackle and close ability, block shedding ability, pass rush, and ball skills graded a 5.4 out of 7 for me, which is good, borderline great territory. Pass coverage, he graded a 5.5. These numbers typically have a high variation. So whenever I grade these out, so I guess what I'm trying to say here is there's a lot of consistency in his game across every factor of what he needs to do at his position. So I like that. Very consistent player across the board. So I do think that he's still working his way into his linebacker role. He was a safety convert, so he's still trying to settle in. I do think that we're due for a pretty explosive season this year. I think that he could really develop into this explosive linebacker who's able to make a lot of big plays. I comped him out to Quay Walker, and I'll mention this as well with my comps. I do stylistic comps. I don't particularly do, whenever I can, I will, but I don't particularly do these apples to apples type of comps to these, pro players. I understand, it's called a pro comp, but I like to frame it as a player comp. Um, I'm not a big fan of comparing these college athletes who have such a, you know different pedigree. Obviously, Sonny Styles just played in a conference in a college football playoff championship game and won, but these pedigrees are a lot different than these pro level NFL athletes. So uh, I do try to lean on these stylistic comps. Quay Walker again was the comp for Sonny Styles. If there are, the main issues with Sonny Styles, pad level can reach a little bit high. That can make him a little bit of a liability at times as a run defender, because he can get driven back a little bit more easily by second level offensive lineman. Deceleration, again, a little bit of a challenge. More adequate than bad or anything, just average. He can have some flyby tackles. Flexibility, particularly in his lower half, not a big fan of it. I think he's a little tight at times, but again, average in that particular trait. Good upper body functional strength. Processing ability is very good for someone that is a safety turned linebacker. He's still learning the position, and he's caught on pretty quickly. He knows how to make his fits. Very spatially aware, disciplined player with good read and react skills, fairly competitive. Carries, has good cadence on a play to play basis, makes clutch plays for Ohio State. Endurance, plays to the whistle. I think we do need to work on his form as a tackler. I think that working vertically in coverage, not particularly something he's great at, but a lot of these things are things that you can develop. And I think that Sonny Styles, when it's all said and done, is going to be someone that probably is going to be a second round, maybe third round type of guy, but he could make a case for being the best linebacker in this class when it's all said and done. He has a third round grade for me right now, which is really good for someone uh, that I think has a lot of room to grow. CJ Allen out of Georgia. A lot of early bids for CJ Allen to be linebacker one. I know this is kind of where it gets weird because the top three guys I have, one of them is typically borderline a top three guys, and on most people's radar. Two of these guys are one of these guys is probably going to be someone that you maybe don't really know of, and you're going to really have to dig into the film on him. But the other is someone that's typically found on these early summer scouting rankings, but I have him a little bit higher. But CJ Allen, back to CJ Allen, um, Georgia linebacker, played with Raylan Wilson. Raylan Wilson played Will. CJ is going to be most likely a Mike linebacker at the pro level. Again, a lot to like about this guy. So, really like his hand placement. I think whenever it comes to shedding blocks, although he has room for growth, I think he's good at it. And I think he just has the opportunity to eventually be great at it. I like him as a pass rusher off the edge. His hands are a very good trait of his. Good hand placement, good hand quickness, gets decent knockback whenever it comes to his hand strength and grip strength. Some false steps whenever it comes to his feet, but he is able to recover due to quick, limber, easy to move feet. Pad level can get a little bit high, which is something that I do think, like I said, with his block shedding, I think he could get better. And a lot of that is because he just needs to lower that pad level a little bit. And I think that's going to help him out big time. Good athlete. I think that this is someone who he accelerates well, but his kind of like second, third gear in here is really good. He does have good pursuit speed. So that chase down, hunter of a linebacker type of trait, which is something you'll hear me mention a lot. I do like these guys that are almost just these hunters that just chase, see ball carrier, get ball carrier, and they take care of business. Good at coming to balance, decelerating upon contact, good instincts, very flexible player, with good functional strength, particularly in his upper half. His lower half is kind of off balance, not like in terms of proportionality. I do think he needs to fill out his lower body a little bit. Good at going through progressions and anticipating pre-snap. I do think his overall spatial awareness and discipline, in terms of making his fits, do need to improve. But he does have great reactionary skills. Good overall competitiveness. Stays poised throughout the game. Situational player who can make big plays down the stretch of the game. Great tackler. I do think one of the better tacklers in this class, behind, of course, Whit Weeks, and one other that I will mention here in a bit, that is very good in terms of tackling. I think vertically, in terms of vertical routes, he does have work to do in coverage. Good at covering in routes. I think there's some work to do in terms of out and stop routes, in terms of technique, spacing, location, but his overall athletic ability does help him kind of close the gap. This is one of the better athletes at the linebacker position in this class. And that does take him a long way. So moving on to number 3, this is where it gets a little weird. Jason Barham, Michigan, someone that you don't typically see this high on the list. This is someone that often is getting this mid-round type of recognition. So he's not, someone that's total curveball, but he is a little bit higher on my radar than most. But I love his ability to close on the ball carrier. I love what I think he can eventually become as a block shedder. Good at it, could be great at it. Pass rush skills, good at it, could be great at it. And I just think he's bound to have a really good breakout year this year, and become this potential second round type of Mike linebacker that, just as a plug and play at the pro level. Great hand placement whenever it comes to block shedding and pass rush. The hands get really late to the point of contact, which is a little bit of a little odd to me. Um, but if he can get his hands, into the chest of the blocker, um, a little like a split second earlier, I think that's going to go a long way for him. That's where I really think that he could find growth as a block shedder. Again, he's actually pretty good at it already, just because of his sheer functional strength, size, and hand placement. Because sometimes he's just, even though it's late, he is able to just land them at the right spot and stack and shed at that point, using his brute strength. But if he could get his hands in there a little bit quicker, make it so blockers don't get into his chest as easily, then that's going to go a long way. Doesn't have a lot of false steps whenever he's making his fits. Uh, his feet are a little average in terms of foot speed, so that's something. Pad levels typically good. Plays pretty low to the ground. Uh, Good acceleration. I don't think he's going to run very well at the combine, but I do think that he's going to get a good 10-yard split type of time. Instincts are a little marginal. I think I did already differentiate between instincts and read and react skills for me, but instincts are a little bit marginal for him. So deceleration adequate, not very good. Not the most flexible player, very average in that particular sense, but functional strength is probably best in this class at the position. Graded out great in both of those categories for both upper body and lower body for me. So um, that's one of his calling cards. Probably his, yeah, I think that's his highest graded trait for me, is just his overall functional strength. Um, and Pre-snap, I will note that I really like whenever he is, being used as a pass rusher. He's not this just a speed rusher, shoot a gap, get to the quarterback. He does have a little bit of juice and with his hands, a little bit of a pass rush repertoire. I do enjoy that. I think that that's going to take him a long way at the pro level, because he can be used as a pass rusher. Even though he only had one sack this past year, he'd have 20 pressures, 21.3 pressure rate. So there's a lot to like about his ability as a pass rusher. I think that's going to be a trait that only grows, especially now that you're looking at a Michigan team that just lost. I mean, the Kenneth Grant, obviously Kenneth Grant wasn't the best pass rusher, but um, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, and oh boy, I'm forgetting the edge rusher. But um, Josiah Stewart, all three of them headed off to the NFL. So you do have a little bit of room for some pass rush, necessity for the Michigan defense. I do think that Jason Barham is probably going to fill in a little bit with that. Spatial awareness, marginal. I think that's seen both in coverage and as a run defender. Sometimes he can be out of place, but he does have good discipline. He is able to fit gaps and not get overzealous. It's just a matter of, how he can space within that, and best set himself up to be able to fill a gap. Read and react skills, marginal. I don't think he's going to be this splash type of guy anytime soon in terms of making these splash plays behind the line of scrimmage. Um, uh, and yeah, this is a great tackler. I love his form. I love his wrap up ability. I think that there's going to be a lot of uh, teams that really like his ability to just be reliable, just close on the ball carrier and tackle. And there's a lot of teams that need that type of reliability right now. Jason Barham checks that box. Um, Vertical routes in terms of coverage, not very good at that. I don't really love his ability in coverage in terms of the overall, technique aspect, but I do think that um, I do think that there are some areas of growth. So I do think ultimately this is a guy that could develop into a good pass rusher, or I'm sorry, pass cover. But at least as of right now, I do think that there's some woes in that particular category. The comp was Demario Davis. And again, this is stylistic, not a apples to apples comp. But I could see him, that could be his ceiling. I don't know if he will hit that ceiling ever, but that could be a territory where he falls down the road. Now, this is the interesting one. Someone that this was the second to last linebacker I watched, and I kind of immediately fell in love with his tape. Uh, Aiden Fisher, Indiana, probably not someone that you've really, you know, heard of by the mass media, but there is a lot to like with him. 6'1", 233 is the height and weight. The comp was actually Blake Martinez and Peyton Wilson, kind of hybrid between them. This is a really sound athlete. I mean, he was just flying around the field. He was great at closing on tackles, very, reliable in terms of just see ball, get ball. I do think there is some, work to do in terms of his overall tackling form, but this is someone that's going to get to the spot and he's going to slow the ball carrier down on an almost every play basis. I do think that this is someone that could become a 100+ tackler at the pro level on a consistent year to year basis. Coverage skills are really impressive. I think that this is one of the best parts of Aiden Fisher's game. Hands are adequate in terms of all of the above: placement, quickness, grip strength. I do think that there's some work to be done there, and I think that once he's able to work on his hand technique, he's going to become a better block shedder. Um, uh, his feet are kind of remarkable. Very few false steps on his tape. And the feet are quick. They are just flying around. It helps him reset, helps him fill, and pad level is extremely low. He is listed at 6'1", like I said, but I do think he could be closer to 6 foot. And so being a shorter linebacker, that does help with the pad level, but beyond just the God given gift, the height and weight, something he can't control. What he can control, um, in terms of pad level, is fantastic. He plays really, really low. And that helps him out tremendously. Overall functional speed, acceleration, pursuit speed, and stamina are all good. A very instinctual player. Deceleration, a little bit more of a flyby type of guy as well. Does have some moments where he just flies past the ball carrier, and then he's having to spin back around, it's trying to stop his momentum and do this like ankle tackle, and typically it doesn't work out. Um, uh, Fairly flexible, actually pretty dang flexible player. Just his upper body is a little bit more stiff, but his lower body hips are very flexible. Um, uh, and the ankles are. That's going to be something that's going to help him as a pass rusher. I do think that he could develop into a really good pass rusher because he has bend. And this is someone where I was mentioning earlier with the pass rush moves for these linebackers. Um, a lot of these guys are just gap shooters and they just fly through. Aiden Fisher has some moves. There was a ridiculous spin move. I think he was against Maryland that he did. Um, I'd say go check that out. That was pretty remarkable. But he does have a plan. You can see his hands moving around as well. I think it's just a matter of where to put the hands. I think that you can tell that he's brewing something up in his mind. I think sometimes he just doesn't land it, the way he wants. But beyond that, whenever it does come to just pure gap shooting as a pass rusher, he's able to do it really well just because his body is so flexible to be able to maneuver through the traffic and get there. And that also helps him whenever it comes to his just pure see ball, get ball skills. He's just able to like cut through the traffic, cut through the blocking, and just get to the ball carrier. Highly competitive player. He's always near the ball. Um, uh, has good anticipation. Overall spatial awareness is good. Some disciplinary skills in terms of staying, patient and disciplined with his gap. Read and react skills are some of the best in the class. Competitiveness is excellent. Um, uh, the very clutch type of player. This is someone that I saw make a lot of splash plays that were much needed for Indiana. Endurance, plays through the whistle, finishes reps. I think I mentioned it earlier, but an adequate tackler. Sometimes those flyby tackles get to him, and overall, just his form needs some work. Uh, Great route tree as a pass and pass coverage. Able to cover vertical routes. I love the way his hips work whenever he's dropping back. In routes, good with out routes, great with stop routes. I think that a lot of that has to do with his overall athleticism, but a lot of that has to do with his overall processing skills. And he just knows like where to be in coverage. I do think that there's time where some of these underneath routes can get the best of him, particularly when there's these, in or outbreaking routes, underneath outbreaking routes that he is, as a will linebacker, he's uh, supposed to cover. Sometimes he can be a little bit of a step late. I'm not worried about it. He's great. But yeah, this is a player. If you have not watched him, I really recommend it. Go give him a watch. This is a juiced up, very athletic player. I know there's some people that don't think he's quite the athlete that I do. I think he's very flexible. I think that he is incredible reactionary skills. And this is a guy that I was pretty early on the scene with Peyton Wilson whenever he came out of NC State. Uh, I see a lot of Peyton Wilson in Aiden Fisher's game. Just this juiced up linebacker, twitched up, plays with his hair on fire, very competitive. See ball, get ball, um, uh, pass rush skills, coverage skills, tackling skills. Has the statistics to back it up. 110 tackles last year. Um, this is a good football player, and he is going to, um, I think, eventually become someone that people start to see him for who he is, and he starts to get a lot of media attention. I'd bet that NFL teams are already on this with him. But yeah, I have a second round grade on him. Again, just great player, someone I'm very much so rooting for. All right. So, and this is a tight grade, by the way, between Aiden Fisher and my number one prospect. And then behind them was a little bit of a dip between Fisher and Barham. And then, yeah, had those, had Sonny Styles, CJ Allen, Barham all graded out as third round grades. Whit Weeks was a fourth. And then I had a 5 on Perkins and then a 7 on everyone else. But yeah, so number one is Alabama's Deontay Lawson. Uh, I I do kind of wonder what the deal is with the kind of, I guess, the kind of disconnect there is. Deontay Lawson's not someone that kind of gets lost in the mix. This isn't. I know Indiana's still a big school. They played. I mean, heck, they played in the playoff last year. Um, but Alabama is not just a school in college football. This is the school in college football, other than maybe Georgia, and maybe Texas, you could say. But they get a lot of eyes by the media. Um, I know Deontay Lawson smack dab on everyone's radar at the linebacker position. I do kind of wonder if there is a kind of mainstream viewpoint on Lawson that maybe I'm not seeing. Maybe I'm seeing him wrong. I don't know, but I know the injuries. I mean, he tore his ACL last year. Even though after a little bit of research, I couldn't find anything saying he particularly tore it, but I think he tore it. Sprained ankle in 2023 caused him miss a couple weeks. So there's a little bit of an injury background, but I love his ability to tackle. I love his ability to pass rush. I love his ability in coverage. I think he's one of the best block shedders in this class. I think he has good ball skills. I think he's a really good athlete. I am struggling with what to not like here. I think he's a technician. I think he's a good processor. Hands are good. great hand placement, good hand quickness, doesn't let these guys work their way into the chest too often. Grip strength is meh. I mean, there is some functional strength woes with him. He is on the smaller side. I have an official 6022, so 6'2" and a quarter at 227 is the weight I got him at. So pretty average size linebacker in the modern day. Great feet, not a lot of false steps, good foot quickness, good pad level, accelerates well, pursues well, has good distance speed, great instincts, love his instincts, love his deceleration skills, uh, a very flexible player. I think this is one of the most flexible linebackers in this class. I I've heard a lot of people say otherwise. Um, I don't see that. Maybe it was the games that I watched. I guess I'll point it out. I watched LSU and Wisconsin. Um, but I mean, I wasn't watching, some small school like Norfolk University. I was watching LSU and Wisconsin. These are big schools. So I'm having a hard time trying to connect the dots as to where this disconnect is. Particularly, I think it's with the athleticism. I think a lot of people view him as less of an athlete than I do. Processing skills um, are probably best in the class, in my opinion. Great spatial awareness, knows where the ball is, knows where he needs to be to get the ball. Good pursuit angles, good gap discipline as well. Um, Very competitive in all facets of what his position entails. Uh, has great cadence. I think that this is someone that can command a linebacker room and can kind of command a defense in general. Um, a good tackler, great in terms of the majority of the routes I was able to view him on. Good vertical routes, good in vertical routes as in terms of pass coverage, of course. In routes, great. Out routes, great. Stop routes, great. Um, uh, I thought they used him pretty well in the Alabama system. I thought the balance of coverage, sacks, and just pure run defense was really good. I thought that he's going to make a good Mike linebacker one day. I do know he's a little on the smaller side. He can bulk up. I'm not worried about that. He's athletic enough to just add a little weight, be able to fill out a little bit. That'll help him just check a lot of boxes here. Particularly his functional strength is an area of weakness that, as I mentioned. But man, this guy's good. I have a early second round grade on him. And I think that that could eventually become a first round grade. I only have 5 positions fully scouted. Um, but he's number 7 on my board right now. He's my number 1 linebacker. There is a lot of room for growth for him as well. So I think that this could be someone that if anyone's going to be a first round linebacker in this class, this is my first guess. And I mean, I mentioned it before. I get it. I mean, I know that maybe there's a chance I watched some of the wrong games on some of these guys. I don't think so. I think I picked out the right games, and I saw a lot of good things from the majority of these guys. So before I go back and just review this list one more time, I will mention I watched Torian York. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Texas A&M linebacker. I know there's some people on the fan club with Torian York. I mean, I'll just quickly fly by this, but um, I ESPN has him listed at 5'10". Before it was 6 foot. I think this past week they went through and updated the measurements for this year. They have him listed at 5'10". A lot of these teams are not conservative with their heights. And watching the film, that's what he looked like. He looked like 5'10", just a short, stubby dude, filled out frame. I mean, I also looked into his character, by the way. Just I like to do a little bit of a background check to kind of review what these guys are off the field and in the locker room. Torian York, I will say he checks one thing that like makes him a 7th round grade and not a priority undrafted free agent is character. This is someone that can be a leader, be a high, high caliber guy in the locker room. But um, I don't know, man. I see a lot of question marks. I know it's really not smart to get just hung up on the height and weight, but beyond that, I mean, there's not a lot of things on his film that just made me, excited for what he could be at the pro level. I do think that he just has a lot of good traits and average traits, and I don't think that's going to get you by at the pro level with that, height. Um, I mean, recently, uh, N'Kobe Dean coming out of Georgia. I mean, I don't remember what N'Kobe Dean's exact measurements were. I can look it up. He was 5'11" and a quarter, and people were freaking out. 229. Torian York is 5'10", and I think he's truly 5'10", maybe a hair over. 227. He doesn't have nearly the amount of skills, the amount of instincts. I mean, he's a good tackler. He's good at closing on the ball. I don't think he's near the processor that N'Kobe Dean was. Um, and that gives me a lot of pause about Torian York. Lander Barton, seen some hype for him, particularly last year, summer scouting, and then some, a recircling back to that this year in summer scouting for the draft community. I didn't quite see it with him either. I think that he's gonna. I mean, maybe he'll make it as like a practice squad guy. Maybe he'll be a, I don't know, a special teamer. But coverage skills concern me. I didn't think he was the best closer on the ball. I didn't think that I thought his feet were messed up. Um, I mean, poor, like a lot of false steps, and then didn't have the quickness to make up for it in terms of his feet. Not probably he was the worst graded out athlete of the linebackers I watched. He had a 4 out of 7. It's pretty tight. I mean, there weren't any elite athletes in this class, but the highest grade I got was a 5.4, and that was there were 3 guys that logged a 5.4, but of those 3, the best was Raylan Wilson in terms of athleticism. But I mean, that just goes to show you it is a pretty compact class in terms of athleticism, but Landon Barton was smack dab at the bottom. And I don't, I don't like that. That concerns me whenever it's not just he's a bad athlete and he's good at all these other, he's just not, he's a bad athlete. I don't think he's, an elite processor by any means. I don't think that he's going to be good in coverage anytime soon. Technique, one of the worst technicians, I think, for both his upper and lower body. So, and then you have an undisclosed ACL injury. I think it was a torn ACL again, week 8 plus. So he missed the remainder of the season in 2023. I don't like that. Yeah, he was 6'4", 236, so he does have the height and weight that you look for. But I'm not drafting a guy just because he's big. I'm not drafting a guy, or I'm not avoiding drafting a guy just because he's small like York was. But these guys just don't have the traits to kind of make up for the in-between. Landon Barton got an undraftable grade for me right now. So undraftable, I know that sounds a little extreme, but after 7th round guys, I have my priority undrafted guys, and then I have my undraftable guys that I just won't, if I was in the shoes of these GMs, I would just wouldn't want to really pursue and put time and effort into. But I do think Landon Barton is going to make it eventually as like a special teamer. But at the moment, there's a lot of work to do. But yeah, so there's my that's my top 15 or I'm sorry, top 10 with a couple of excess guys. Again, I mean, number 10, Raylan Wilson, Georgia. Linebacker, number 9, Amari Campbell, Penn State, transfer from North Carolina. Number 8 was Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas. 7 was Harold Perkins Jr. out of LSU. Whit Weeks sitting at number 6 out of LSU. Number 5, Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. Number 3, Jay Sean Barham out of Michigan, formerly out of Maryland. He transferred over 2 years ago. Aiden Fisher, Indiana. Deontay Lawson, Alabama. That's the list. So, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that's going to wrap it up for linebackers today. I think I'll try and get into the rhythm of getting more of these videos out for summer scouting. Ayush is going to try and hop on with me for one or two of these. But in the meantime, I'll probably get back to you with, I don't know, one of these positions, interior defensive linemen, running backs. I don't know, one of them, probably. But I do have, 5 positions fully scouted at this point, pretty in depth as well. So I'll be able to give you guys a lot of good insight on these positions. So keep on the lookout for that. Again, I mean, thank you guys for keeping with us, and yeah, keep showing love, keep listening to our shows, and we're on X, we're on Discord, we're on YouTube. So yeah, show us some love. Hopefully in the near future we'll get Ayush back in the show. Hopefully in the near future we'll get Mark and Pierce back on the show. But for now, that's me, Dillon Jewett, signing off. We will see you guys later.